There is so much deception out there, and we as Christians need to be really, really careful about what we share, what we consume in the media, and what we bring into our belief systems, because there are more people out there that want to lie to you than there are that want to tell you the truth. And it's constant. So one example that I want to show you, this has been going around Facebook for a few days, and this is just one outlet. I think it's like clickbait farm stuff, but you may have seen this, and I've even seen it shared by some Christians because of the language. These people are, or these bots or whatever, they're manipulating you. They know the language that's going to cause you to get excited and to share it. You have to be skeptical of everything. So I wrote, this is what I wrote, and then I'll read what it actually says. I have been constantly seeing this same story from different outlets I've never heard of being shared word for word on Facebook. So they'll take the exact same story and they'll paste it in different things. And they'll say, according to International Business Times, this, and this. And they'll go through all that. They claim that it's there, but they don't share the link. They never share the link. And I said, but none of them link the IBT article. When I go to IBT, not surprisingly, I can't find it anywhere. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is just more lies being spread to get clicks. So then when you actually click on it, if it'll let me, this is what it says. According to reporting by the International Business Times, which is completely untrue, as far as I can tell, no article like this exists. And I don't know how these types of so-called publications, there's another one called like Collective Evolution or something that's spreading this. Sources inside the Pentagon are pushing back against Trump's UAP disclosure order, not over national security, but over something far more unsettling. Some officials reportedly believe the UAP phenomenon carries what insiders are calling demonic or interdimensional implications, and that releasing this data could trigger religious upheaval on a globa scale. Global, it meant. This is untrue. I have not found anything to corroborate this. This is a lie, and they write it this way because they know Christians will share it without checking the source. We need to get a lot better at checking sources before we share anything. Filmmaker, and believe me, like, if this were true, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's a great story. I need to make a video on that. It's not, though. Filmmaker and UAP researcher Mark Christopher Lee claims a Washington source warned him directly of massive internal resistance, with certain Pentagon figures believing these craft do not fit any standard extraterrestrial explanation. See, they'll put a little bit of truth in there. They'll put a little bit of truth to make you buy the lie. Congressman Tim Burchett, Congressman Eric Burleson, and Representative Anna Paulina Luna have all publicly called for full disclosure, with Burchett confirming that he has personally seen photographs and videos inside classified briefing facilities. As far as I know, that part's true. Senator John Kennedy stated on record he is not certain UAP information has ever been fully communicated to sitting presidents. The data exists, the witnesses exist, and yet the files remain locked, reportedly because what's inside them does not just challenge science. According to insiders, it challenges faith itself. It has nothing to do with it. You know, there was a time where I believe that might have been the case, but that doesn't have anything to do with it anymore. And International Business Times, I went on the website, I searched for this supposed story, could not find it anywhere. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, put it in the comments. Link the article. But and if this is true, I'll do a show on it. But now I know Anna Paulina Luna did go on Joe Rogan and say something like, you know, they're interdimensional, read the Book of Enoch, stuff like that. This is stuff that we've known for years. It's good that there are some people in places of authority that are catching on. To what extent, we don't know. But so when I read that and it actually quotes, it says insiders are calling demonic or interdimensional implications. Of course, they know that that's going to get Christians excited, and they're going to want to share it and say, "Hey, we were right. Look," and it's not wrong to kind of feel that way, to feel some vindication through that, but it's just not true. Now I know that they have talked about that before, but that's not why they're. As far as we can tell, as far as any credible source can say, that's not why we haven't gotten the files yet. I didn't expect to get it very soon. I mean, I'm curious to know, what were your expectations when you heard that Trump said, "Hey, we'll release the files," whatever that means? What were your expectations? I didn't expect to get it anywhere. I figured probably a few months. It's going to take them a while to compile everything, and then probably even what we do get is going to be heavily redacted, and there's probably not going to be much in there that tells us anything that we don't already know. Now, I could be wrong. There's a rumor going around. We've talked about it that. And it's a rumor. I don't put any real stock into this, but I would say we do need to be prepared just in case. But there's a rumor going around that Trump is going to make a big announcement in July for America's 250th anniversary, that we're not alone. And as far as it looks right now, it looks to just be a rumor. I don't think this is actually going to happen, but it might. And even if not this time, there might be a time where something like that happens. So I would say it's really good for us to be prepared. We need to know what all of this stuff is about. And by the way, that's why I have the picture of the UFO up there. It's because it's a subject I talk about a lot. It's not, I get some people that kind of bash me about that. They're like, "Oh, gee," like I'm not shilling for UFOs or anything. It's just something I talk a lot about. Same with the Dead Sea Scrolls. I have that up there too. And then the alien skull thing. I mentioned it in one video, but I keep getting questions about it. The reason that I have that on there is it is a reminder of what happened during the flood. The fallen angels made these genetic experiments with human beings. They created the Nephilim, stuff that wasn't ever supposed to exist, and God wiped them out in the flood. Well, what's happening now? What's happening now are these otherworldly beings, whatever you want to call them, apparently have some kind of hybridization program that they're implementing on human beings. And there are humans being tortured through this process. Well, all of those things that are creating all this torture, they're going to be dead someday too. They're going to get judged. They're going to get thrown into the lake of fire. And this is a reminder of that. We shouldn't. We have the power of Jesus. We have the power of life eternal within us through the Holy Spirit. Through salvation. So the dead alien skull, it's a reminder that, hey, these guys, their time is coming. Just like it did during the flood, their time is coming. Whatever they are, however we want to interpret it, whatever word we want to use to describe them, fallen watcher, fallen angel, demonic, interdimensional, extradimensional, I think they're all fine. I think it's all appropriate. Because they all signify what side of the aisle these things are on. It's a reminder that these things they're doomed. They have no salvation. They will not win. No matter what. They are inflicting a lot of pain and torment on people, and always have for almost all of time of human history, at least. Almost all of it. But that doesn't mean it's going to be forever. Their time is coming, and they will be nothing but dust and bones in their whatever genetic experiments that they've been able to create in a physical sense. So that's why the skull's there. I get a lot of questions, and people think I'm like praising the demonic or something. Like, it's a skull, it's dead, and it's not real, by the way. Obviously, it's foam or something. It's 3D printed, I think. But that's why I have that on there. And then you got all these beautiful things: the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Ark of the Covenant. This is a replica of a jar that the Dead Sea Scrolls a lot of them were found in. Stuff like that. So don't get too tripped up on that. It's stuff that I talk about. So it's stuff that's on the set. That's what it is. It's really nothing more than that. I even had somebody call me a Freemason because of it. They're like, well, on one side you got the light and one side you got the dark, and that's Freemason. I didn't realize you were a Freemason. Like, I'm not, but okay. I would have figured people were kind of fed up with the whole "you're a Freemason" accusation thing at every turn, because that happened a lot, like 5-6 years ago, 10 years ago, really. I haven't heard it as much, so it was kind of interesting that somebody went back to an old classic, "you're a Freemason." Maybe somebody can screenshot some hand signs that I've made because I talk with my hands and stuff. Anyway, so there's another story about this too, that relating to these UFO files, and it's not the ones from the government, but it's from somebody else, that someone had an entire vault, basically, treasure trove of UFO files that just vanished out of nowhere. You probably heard this story, but we're gonna if you haven't heard it, or you only know a little bit about it, we're gonna get into all of it. And this trove vanished after Trump released the order. And it's one of the most well-known figures in the whole disclosure movement. And all of his files somehow mysteriously disappeared. And of course, there's got to be something more to that. Before we get to that story, though, let me tell you about Substack and Cornerstone. Let's go, Cornerstone.
Hey, everyone. Concerning the economically unstable times that we live in, it is a great idea to convert some of your savings into real money. Now, there is a big difference between real money and what we call money, which is actually currency. So our dollar is currency, which fluctuates. Real money, like silver, is a store of value over time. The best way to think of it is like this. If you had saved $1,000 in cash back in the late 1960s, that $1,000 would still be $1,000 today, but it would buy you significantly less today due to inflation. Now, if you saved that same $1,000 in silver back in the 1960s, it would be around $28,000 today. So one of the best ways to protect your purchasing power is in real money, more specifically, silver. Now, you can buy and have the metal shipped discreetly to your door, and what most people don't know is that you can actually convert your IRA or even your 401k into physical silver rather than having all your life savings tied up in the paper fiat system, which is, of course, subject to hyperinflation. So go to dailyrenegade.com right now and click on the Cornerstone Asset Metals banner and sign up to get your free silver report. One of the financial experts will speak with you and find out the best way to protect your savings going forward in these uncertain times. You can also click on the link in the description below that goes directly to cornerstoneassetmetals.com. Make sure you tell them that Josh Peck at Daily Renegade sent you. It is time to stop trusting the evil beast financial system of the world and protect your assets today. I have just started a Substack. What is a Substack, you might ask? It is a place that contains early access to audio-only podcast versions of full Daily Renegade videos, plus my personal blog, which includes original articles, show notes, interview transcripts, and so much more. This is the only place to get this amazing resource, and it is not available to the general public. Adding a subscription to my Substack to your Daily Renegade membership will ensure that you have full access to every format of everything that I do. So head on over to joshpeck.substack.com or click on the link in the description below to join up now for only $5 a month or $50 a year. And if you can do it, I suggest doing the $50 a year because it's cheaper in the long run, and essentially you get 2 months for free. So I cannot wait to see you there. Take care and God bless.
All right, let's dig right into it. Thank you for checking that out. So all you need to know, as huge UFO file trove vanishes after Trump release order. So after President Donald Trump ordered the release of all UFO records, a massive vault of 3.8 million files vanished within 24 hours. I don't think this is a coincidence. Yeah, so this is just some bullet points of it, but it says the Black Vault, a massive digital archive of declassified government documents, has suffered a mysterious and total data wipe. So many of you have probably heard of the Black Vault. Again, like I said, it's one of the most well-known things out there in the whole disclosure movement stuff. And so coincidentally, all these files go missing right after Trump announces that he wants to release the files. Because of course, there's going to be people in the government and people that like want to not do that. So of course, this kind of stuff's going to happen. The sudden loss occurred just one day after U.S. President Donald Trump ordered the release of secret files regarding extraterrestrial life. Hundreds of gigabytes of information, including top secret CIA projects and JFK assassination files, were systematically emptied from the main server. And you might be asking, well, this probably isn't anything conspiratorial because they were declassified. Why would they bother declassifying, or why would they bother deleting stuff that's already declassified? It's because they were all compiled. Like it takes a lot of time to compile that much declassified stuff. So in order to recreate that, all those files, you would have to go through one by one and put the vault back together. Like that's going to take forever. So yeah, they're all declassified, but they're not all compiled like they were. This made it a lot easier. So now it's going to be a lot more difficult. Yes, they are declassified, they're out there, but it's a lot harder to find stuff now without this. The site's founder noted that ownership logs were altered without warning before the deletion took place. Ownership logs. The wipeout happened following President Trump's historic mandate for government agencies to identify and release all UFO-related documents. The timing has sparked significant concern among researchers. Founded by John Greenwald Jr., the site contains over 80 years of hidden history and nearly 4 million documents. Yeah, it's going to take a long time to compile that again. So even though those were all declassified, doesn't matter. It's going to take a long time to compile all that. It is widely considered a primary resource for information on alien craft recovery missions and CIA directives. Greenwald's web hosting provider said that the event was a deletion rather than a technical file corruption. While the provider could not explain how it happened, they have not officially accepted responsibility for the incident. Greenwald publicly labeled the event oddly timed server maintenance that likely went wrong during the hosting process. However, he admitted he cannot entirely rule out the possibility of foul play. Of course, and if it is, they do this in a way where there's always some question. There's always like, well, it might not be that. But I think it's pretty unlikely. The chances are really, really low that this was just a mistake. Could it have just been some weird glitch that happened at a really weird time? Yeah, of course that's possible. A lot of things are possible, but that doesn't mean they're likely. Trump's push for transparency followed a podcast interview where former President Barack Obama spoke about the reality of UFOs. By the way, that was like one of the most botched interviews ever. How do you not follow up? It's like, I know that they were, so if you don't know, it was like a speed round interview thing where you're supposed to just ask a question fast and then the guest gives a quick answer and then you move on. And they were doing that. Forget the host's name, but they were doing that. So Obama said that aliens are real, and then he doesn't follow up. At that time, abandon the lightning round. Say, if it was me, I'd say, wait, hang on. Okay, we let's postpone the lightning round for a second because I have about 50 follow-up questions for that. What exactly do you mean they're real? How do you know that? Did you see them? Is that something that somebody just told you? Is that your opinion? Like, I would have a lot more follow-up questions than that. That was totally botched. Probably the most botched interview of all of human history. Wouldn't surprise me. But anyway, Trump accused Obama of revealing classified info and responded by ordering a full disclosure process. Yeah, and Trump did say that, like he's talking about classified things. So it's like he said it was real. Trump said he shouldn't talk about classified things. So, but then he also said he doesn't know if they're real. Like it's weird. It's weird. These people know a lot more than they're letting on, and I think it's ridiculous that they don't tell people what's going on. I know that it's a big deception. We pretty much everybody watching this, if you follow anything that I do or anything that is in like the fringe Christian kind of stuff, we all know that this is a deception from the enemy. But at the same time, to these people in power, they think it's real. They think it's actually extraterrestrials, and they think that they should get to have that knowledge, but none of us do. That because we're just basically like little children. That they can have all the information, but not us. It's like we all share this planet. We're all equally human beings. We all should have access to the information. It's infuriating. Knowing, and again, I know it's a deception, but they don't see it that way. Knowing that they see it the way they see it. They think that this is proof of alien life, and they're perfectly fine not letting the entire planet know that. And I know there's a lot of nuances, a lot of ins and outs and stuff, but that stuff just drives me crazy. And again, though, but we need to be prepared. I do believe that a time is coming that this stuff is going to get more and more intense. Stuff is going to be released more and more. Let's finish this, and then I'll talk about that. But despite the server being wiped clean, Greenwald had backups stored in multiple secure locations. This allowed the website to be fully restored and back online shortly after the data vanished. Well, that's good. Greenwald emphasized that the event is a stark reminder of the importance of keeping multiple backups of sensitive information. He urged researchers to remain unintimidated by obstacles regardless of their origin or intent. All right, so that's just the bullet points. I didn't want to belabor that too much. So that's what happened with that. With all of this stuff, and that was a big story going around. Even if you think that it was just a glitch, whatever, there's nothing really to see here. A lot of people listen to this stuff, and there are more and more stories all the time keeping this in the public consciousness. Meaning, whether it's real or not, no matter what you think about it, whether you think it's all propaganda, they're not going to release anything, they don't have anything, whatever you think about it, or disclosures any day, any day now they're going to confirm it. Whatever you think about it, it's in the public consciousness, and these publications are keeping it there. Popularity in this subject is rising and rising and rising. All of a sudden, when I was growing up, you were a conspiracy theorist. You were a nutcase, basically. If you took any validity in the UFO thing. That's how the perception was. It wasn't really like that in like personal day-to-day life, like for individuals, but like if you would turn on the news, they would laugh about UFO stuff. But now we're living in a time where this stuff is being taken very seriously. And in Congress, in the media, on the news, it's being taken very seriously. People aren't really laughing about it anymore. So this is even more and more why we need to be the ones that are going to provide an answer. We have to. Like, yeah, that's good that Paula, I can never remember her name, but the Congresswoman, goes on Joe Rogan. She mentions the Book of Enoch. I guess they use the word interdimensional. Like that's great, good start. But what about Enoch? Like, what exact lens are you reading that through? Because I would say start with Genesis 6. Get that down. Then go look at Enoch and just read it just literally. Don't inject a whole bunch of symbolism. I mean, there are, of course, in the Book of Enoch, there are like dreams and visions and stuff. But when it talks about like Azazel and Semyaza and the genetic experiments and all of that, just take that for exactly what it says. And they're watchers, they're fallen angels of some kind. And the word interdimensional is used. I would say extra dimensional is more appropriate, but again, hey, you're on the right track. Interdimensional is fine. The reason I say that is because it's really not a big deal at all. Like there are some people that don't like that this stuff is called demonic because a demon is different than a fallen angel, and it's like, yeah, we get all that. We get that, but it's not. If you get somebody to agree that it's demonic, great. They're on the right track. It's nothing to get annoyed about. Just like the interdimensional, extra dimensional thing. So we would say in our normal common language, I'm not talking about dictionary definition here. I'm just saying, and if you ask most people what is an extraterrestrial, they're going to say that's a biological being from another planet. They originate on another planet. They're extraterrestrial. Terrestrial, world, Earth, planet. They're on another one of those outside of ours. Now, if you say that something is interplanetary, that usually means they have the capability to go planet to planet. Like if we established a colony on Mars, human beings would then be an interplanetary species. So, using that logic, and I wrote about this in a Quantum Creation, actually. It's funny, that was my first major book. And I start the book with these definitions, and it's interesting that this is coming up. But just using that logic, an interdimensional species could be something that's three-dimensional, but could utilize higher dimensions to travel around. Which by the way, if you actually dig into the physics of how much energy would be required to do that without being absolutely destroyed. You can have things like stable black holes and stuff, but the energy to actually create something like that, you would need more than a star. Like you would need more than it's just. Again, if you want more information, I wrote all about that in or actually I think it was Cherubim Chariots, Quantum Creation and Cherubim Chariots. It's good to just put those two books together and read them as kind of one book. I get into all of that there. It's just extremely unfeasible, that something could do that. But what's really easy is if you have something extra dimensional, so something that is originating from a higher dimension. It's really easy for an extra dimensional being to enter our 3 dimensions of space. You don't even need technology for it. And to prove that, so think of our 3 dimensions of space. Think of that as a bunch of 2-dimensional layers stacked up on top of each other, like sheets of paper. The way that you break that down, the smallest thing possible, like in geometry and stuff, it's a point. So that's like the 0th dimension. How do you have the first dimension? Well, the first dimension, that's a line, and a line is the distance between between 2 points. So you have 1 point, and then you have another point. You have to add another point, and then whatever that line is. But what is a line? A line is a series of points. That's what a line is. It's 1 point after another, after another, after another. And there is a specific measurement of that. It's called the Planck length. But anyway, so that's the first dimension. The second dimension is a plane, Plane. So think of like a flat square. What's a plane? A plane is a bunch of lines stacked up together. And those lines, once you have enough of them, and it's all points because the line is points. So it's just lines stacked up. Once you have enough of those, then you have a 2-dimensional plane. Technically, to make it two-dimensional, you only need one more. But anyway, so what about a cube? Well, you have the 2-dimensional plane. You stack a bunch of those up. And then you stack those up, and then it makes a 3-dimensional shape. So our minds can't process anything beyond that. But the idea is you could, in a sense, stack up. It wouldn't be up, because up's not that's the third dimension. That's not, but you would be able to stack, and we're not talking about time here. Time is a temporal dimension. We're talking about dimensions of space. So set time aside. Again, you got to get quantum creation and cherubim chariots. You can get them at prophecywatchers.com. But the idea is that you could stack those into a higher dimension, to a fourth spatial dimension, to create a new thing. So let's say I, as a three-dimensional being, wanted to enter into one of the many two-dimensional planes that are around me. Well, how do I do that? Very easy. You just stick your finger in it. Like, that's it. Like, you're already in many of them. You're already in a bunch of them. I mean, I guess on a universal scale, you're in a very, very small amount of them. But anyway, you're already occupying a few of them. All an extra-dimensional being would have to do is essentially just fall to the earth, and that's how it describes it that's how it's described in all those ancient texts. They fell. They're fallen angels. Now, they inhabit a three-dimensional body. I don't know how all that works, but if I want to operate, like, say that there were two-dimensional beings kind of floating around, and they didn't have up or down, they only had side to side, left and right, they could only move in two dimensions, and they had no concept of up and down. I could put my finger in front of them, and they would see just the section, the two-dimensional section of my finger. I could do that, but if I really wanted to be among them and communicate with them, I would have to have access to a two-dimensional body to inhabit, and I don't have that, so I don't know how angels do that. Apparently, they have access to that, and we don't. And it makes sense that they would have access to that, because they need some way to be able to relate to us. I mean, angel means messenger, and God uses them, the good guys. God uses them to send messages to human beings, so they need to be able to have some kind of body. That's why a lot of times in the Bible, angels appear as just men. So they have this natural ability to inhabit some kind of three-dimensional body. Again, don't know the physics of that. I don't think we can know the physics of it because it's extra-dimensional. But anyway, so that's just what extra-dimensional means. But I think saying interdimensional is just fine. That's it, and it's like, yeah, it's not it's not technically correct, or maybe it is, and it doesn't tell the whole story. But it's like whatever. If somebody just gets to that point, great. They're not these aren't beings from some other planet getting here somehow. To make that work, you need a whole. The easier explanation is exactly what Genesis 6 and Enoch tells us. That's the easiest explanation. It's just that happening again. There's nothing new under the sun, right? So it's like, yeah, on the right track, but now it's up to us to teach even further, to teach even more. And it's also up to us to not fight amongst each other if we have a slightly different definition, and to get all up in arms, because then we're useless. And I'm seeing some of that online. There are people that are just going to be jerks, and you got to cut them out, fine. But we shouldn't be going out of our way to attack one another, or to attack somebody because, like, they're on the right track, but they just have a different definition or the wrong definition. That's where it's up to us as teachers to teach. Teach boldly, sure, but teach out of love. And you can be bold and gentle at the same time. So like when I teach, I don't compromise on stuff that I know to be true, but I'm also not going to be a total jerk about it. Because nobody learns that way. If your goal as a teacher is to teach, and it should be, you want people to learn. No one's going to learn by berating them. That just never happens. It's going to immediately turn them off. No one's ever learned anything that way. Yet I see a lot of that online, just a ton of it, and it's like, man, like we are in an era unlike any other era of human history. The closest that we have is like the Genesis 6 stuff. And you want to fight with people online and argue about stuff that it's like in the grand scheme of things, it just doesn't matter. We're not even permitted to argue about the gospel, and that's the most important thing there is. Like when we present the gospel, if somebody doesn't accept it, or if somebody wants to try to twist it around or whatever, if somebody doesn't accept the gospel, we leave. You pray for them. It's good to correct error, but we still should be doing that out of love if our goal is to teach people. Because again, if you're the guy that's berating everybody, and if you're the one that where it's obvious you're trying to look smart and make everybody feel stupid, like no one's going to respond to that. People can't stand that stuff. So, have some patience, have some grace, because remember, there was a time where we didn't know this stuff too. And we have to remember that and teach this stuff in humility. Yeah, spam call. And anyway, so I think that's important to keep in mind. We should be working together. But again, it is a sign of the times that there's just a lot of strife and a lot of people want to argue. People want to feel superior to other people. They want to feel smarter. They want to prove they're smarter. And if somebody disagrees, they take that as like a personal offense. And I think all of that is a big waste of time, when really the ultimate thing here, it's not even convincing people what these things are. It's convincing people that the gospel is true. And we can do that through this, for sure. But that's the ultimate goal. If somebody gets to the point and they say, because I've seen some Christians get after others for saying aliens are demons, because it's not technically demons. Okay, it's not technically demons, but they're on the right track. Like, that would be somebody, if they're at that point and they don't know the gospel yet, that would be somebody very easy to share the gospel with. If they do know the gospel, then great, they're a brother and sister. Then teach them lovingly. Don't berate them. What is that going to do? I get berated all the time from other fellow Christians, supposedly. I mean, I don't know their hearts. I get berated all the time in the comments, everybody telling me I'm wrong about pre-trib and I'm a false teacher and all, just berating, and I don't listen to any of it. It doesn't do anything to sway my opinion. Not once, because people don't learn that way. Now, there have been times when somebody has come to me very lovingly and kindly and corrected something that I've said wrong, and then I'll accept it. But, okay, so a good example, this video is getting a little long for what it is, but for a good example, I was at a conference and I said that CERN created or invented the internet or something. But I used the word internet. And somebody very kindly and very respectfully and very lovingly, and they weren't timid or anything. They weren't being a wuss about it, but they were just like, hey, I loved your presentation. I do have one small correction if you're willing to hear it. And I said, yeah, absolutely. What's up? And he said, it wasn't the internet that CERN actually invented. It was the World Wide Web. And somehow in my research, that completely flew past me. I actually didn't even know the two were different. And I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah. CERN had as less to do with the internet as Al Gore did, and so we had to laugh over that. But that kind of thing, I love that. So I corrected it. And I thanked the guy. We chatted for a little bit and had a couple laughs and everything. And it was it was a fun, pleasant time. And it didn't hurt my ego one bit. It was actually helpful. He was trying to help. So I appreciated that. Now, if he would have came to me in anger, or if he would have came to me with an attitude of I know more than you, I'm better than you should listen to me. I mean, if I even caught a whiff of that, I probably would not have listened to him, even if he was right. I probably would have gone out of my way to well, no, I wouldn't have done that. I was going to say, okay, my natural carnal inclination would have been to go out of my way to purposely even more say internet instead of World Wide Web. I wouldn't have done that, though. I mean, I'm not going to teach error just for that. But that would have been my just natural carnal sinful instinct to do, just to prove a point. You're not going to come to me and talk to me like that and be disrespectful and not treat me like I'm an equal, and nobody learns like that. But because he was kind, respectful, he was bold. I mean, he wasn't a jerk about it at all. He wasn't being timid or wussy at all. He was just plainly just telling me what it was, and he wasn't making me feel bad about it. He wasn't treating me like I was stupid, even though that kind of is a pretty big oversight that I had, but I'm human and it happens to the best of us. So, of course. So all that to say, I don't take any offense at all if somebody says aliens are demons. Do I believe that's technically correct? No. But we could get into the nuance of what even alien means. I mean, you could get into the nuance and the definitions and the exact precise language, and you could do that all day, and you're not going to shift the entire culture to abandon the words that they already know in favor of yours. That's not how language develops, and language does develop. It gets to a point where in order to just teach and talk to people, you have to know what language they use, even if it's technically, dictionarily, definitionally a little wrong. You have to get to the point where you can use the language that they use, because language is constantly evolving and constantly changing. That's been the case for all of human history. That's just how it is. Every language is like that. That's just how it is. So it's like, do you want to be right? Do you want to show everybody how smart you are, or do you actually want to use the intelligence that God gave you, that God blessed you with, as a gift, and do you want to use that for the glory of God to teach people? And I'm in that camp. Whatever God, and I'm not even saying I'm all that smart or intellectual or anything, but whatever God gives me, I want to use it effectively. Because the knowledge that God's taught me with, it's not really mine. He's giving it as a gift. Like, he's offered it to me as a gift, just like anybody out there watching who's in a position of being a teacher on anything like this. He's given you that as a gift. That's a gift. And not everybody has that, so we shouldn't squander it and use it for our own ego. Anyway, all right, well, I've rambled on long enough about that, but I just wanted to make mention of that because I do believe that this UFO topic is going to be heating up, and we as Christians, we really need to work together, not against each other, and not get hung up on these little things. And we need to we're it. Like, God put us in this time for this reason. Like, we're it. We're the ones that's supposed to be providing this answer, and we're the ones that we need to set a good example. Because if we don't, they will not listen to us. And what's more important, our own egos or their salvation, their eternity? So I'll leave it at that, but I would love to hear what all of you have to say about this and what you think. Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Click the bell to turn on all notifications. And don't forget that you can find us also on Substack, Rumble, dailyrenegade.com is the best place. And Facebook, X, kind of everywhere. So, all right, thank you all so much, and until next time, love you all, take care, and God bless.
If you are a Bible-believing Christian who opposes the kingdom of darkness trying to run the world right now, then you are a renegade to the satanic system. We here at Daily Renegade wear that badge proudly. So, if you're a renegade as well, head on over to dailyrenegade.com right now and get a membership today. You'll get our full catalog of Sharpening Report episodes and Daily Renegade update videos on topics such as Bible prophecy, science, technology, the Nephilim, aliens, and so much more. All of our episodes at Daily Renegade are early access, so as a member, you'll get the videos before anyone else does. Daily Renegade also offers videos not available anywhere else due to social media censorship. We also have a community page only for members where we can all fellowship together without fear of censorship. It's basically the best of Facebook and YouTube rolled into one without any of the garbage. Memberships are only $10 a month or $100 a year, and if you can do it, I suggest getting the $100 a year because it's cheaper in the long run, and essentially you get 2 months for free that way. So come join our family of renegades at dailyrenegade.com right now. The link is in the description below, and we'll see you there.